Here we go.
How are we doing, Kirsty?
Yeah, good. I think let's possibly just give it until 9:32, wait for a couple of stragglers. Good morning, everyone, and then we should be good to go.
It's,
I think we can probably kick off, Terry, and then I'll just keep an eye on the waiting room.
Okay, cool. So welcome everyone to our webinar. I'm Terry Martin, Director at the Alliance of Independent Agencies, and thanks for joining us. This is a really important webinar, which is hosted by Cubit Technology, the Alliance's preferred IT services supplier. We're really addressing a critical issue today, spoofed emails. Just imagine if your agency's emails stop reaching their destination, or if complaints just started surging about spamming. So today we're going to find how you can stop that and really protect your agency's reputation and ensure those emails remain trusted. We're joined by Ralph Harrison, Sales and Marketing Director at Cubit. Hey, Ralph. And Stephen van der Merwe, who's a Senior Sales Specialist at Senmark. Hey, Stephen. They're the ones who are going to be providing all the insights and expert advice for us today. So without further ado, over to you guys.
Wonderful. Thank you, Terry, and thank you, Kirsty, for organising. So yes, my name's Ralph, and I work at Cubit Technology, and we're basically an IT company that focuses on supporting independent agencies. We work with about 30 organisations across London, from small specialists with 10 people to larger independents with 150 plus. And yeah, we're going to address this particular subject today. Funnily enough, on the way in, I had a nice cycle ride in, managed to avoid the rain, and I went past Great Ormond Street Hospital, who they use a bit of rebranding. You know, we often think about marketing as about selling to people, but it's not all about selling. They Great Ormond Street Hospital, it appears, rebrands their ambulances for children to make them less concerned about going into ambulances. So the example of this, a Peter Pan ambulance, I thought was rather charming, and yeah, it makes us think that a lot of what we do in marketing is about developing trust in our product or our service. And that's one element of the agenda today. So we're going to talk about the threat from spoofed emails and what particularly has been done to prevent it. And, you know, we're all involved in marketing, if you're a member of the Alliance. So how does this affect you guys? My little bit here is going to go through very quickly. I'm just doing I'm the intro act. I'm definitely not the right person to give technical analysis, but Stephen is very much that person. He will be going through some detail about the technology that's in play and how to use this technology to gain the appropriate results. And that's about two things, really. It's about email impersonations or spoofing, and it's about delivering, making sure the emails get to their destination. So we'll have some questions and answers. I hope you have some questions. There'll be time anyway for us to answer those. And do please provide any kind of feedback. We'd love to make these sessions a regular occurrence, and clearly to do that successfully, we want to know what works, what's interesting, and what isn't. So yeah, spoofed emails. Well, 360 billion emails. Sometimes you probably feel you get most of those, but about 1% of those are spoofed, and that gives you some kind of idea about the scale of the problem. Yeah, 1% sounds small, but when it's this enormous volume, and each one of those can cause a major security, you know, weakness, or basically it's a vulnerability for you. Something like 90% of cyber attacks come through email, and effectively what we're looking at here is an aspect of human behavior. You know, we like to trust each other. We work as in groups. We work with people we like. We trust when something comes in and we click on a link. Bosh, they're basically the scale of the problem is because people are or scammers and hackers are abusing that general human behavior to trust things. And then what makes it particularly dangerous is when we're expecting some kind of email or we're expecting something to happen. It means any kind of critical aspect of our behavior starts to reduce. We expect something to come in. We then click on it, we open it, and we're particularly vulnerable. So there are two elements of this deception. Either the scammer will establish a similar domain, and it's literally so close to the correct one that you wouldn't see it. You wouldn't see the difference unless you try hard. Or they actually use another domain, the correct domain. And it's really that second element that Stephen's going to be focusing on later. So what is being done about it? Well, the big email sort of providers, Google and Yahoo, are tightening up. So this is affecting the bulk senders first, and many of your agencies out there will be bulk senders. 5,000 emails or more per week, and then what will happen ultimately is this kind of tightening up will affect all email transmissions, and it's being done using a new it's actually a 10-year-old DMARC as an authentication protocol is, I think, 10 years old, but it's only now being implemented, and it's this DMARC protocol that Stephen's going to be guiding you through later. So the potential impact is first of all, if you set up your DMARC protocol correctly, you'll prevent your domain from being used by others, and that threat is really considerable. You know, imagine your agency is festooned with people complaining about it getting spammed by you, and it was nothing to do with you. You've got no control over it. Well, by setting up a DMARC record, you're making a major step towards preventing that happening. The other thing is your emails just aren't going to reach recipients unless Google, Yahoo, other email transmitters can be assured that you are who you say you are. So you're looking at a QR code. Maybe some of you even tried it. I would ask you to try it, because basically what you'll be guided to is a page where you can put in your company email address and then put in your private email address. And if your company domain is vulnerable, you'll get a spoofed email. Now, don't worry, your personal email address won't be stored, nor will your company email address. It's purely for you to see whether, what does it look like to receive a spoofed email. So to guide you through a bit more detail on this, I'm going to hand you over to Stephen, and he will guide you through the actual detail about DMARC and how to employ it.
Thank you, Ralph. Thank you, everybody. Good morning. Hope everyone is having a wonderful morning so far. Just want to pull up the share screen. Ralph, let me know when everybody can see my screen. Yeah, I'm getting thumbs up from Terry, so that's good. So yeah, it's a funny thing, this world of email, and how it works. But really, what we're going to be talking about today is just a quick synopsis of how technology can improve or impact what teams in marketing, teams in operations, teams in finance, teams in management do when using this critical app, right? Because email is a critical app. So we're going to go through some of the issues that relate to email, that relate to this big bad world around cybersecurity, but more specifically domain impersonation. And not just sharing some information, but really a call to action as every domain owner, whether you are the domain owner or you're part of an organization that manages or owns domains, utilizing them to send and receive email. And really the action is, let's get started. Let's have a look at where the vulnerabilities lie and see what we can do to improve on operational efficiencies with regards to email. So I'm not technical by nature. I have been in cybersecurity for the last 10 years, specializing in email security. It is one of my favorite topics to discuss, but as if you speak to my friends and family, I bring up email security when I'm tired of them and they need to go home. If they've overstayed their welcome at a barbecue. But it is a real important topic that we need to discuss because it doesn't just affect one part of the business, it affects all parts of the business. And as Rolf quite rightly said, 90% plus of the cyber attacks start with an email. Why? Because it's the most used communication tool out there. You probably woke up this morning, first thing you probably did is made a cup of coffee or some tea, checked your emails and kind of highlighted the ones that you needed to respond to rather urgently. And if we take a step back and realize what email is, it's effectively electronic forms of physical handwritten letters, which, let's be honest, was never designed with security or rather efficiencies in mind. It was more just around how do we do this? How do we send a letter at a distance quickly and without any real regard of who's got eyes on it and who's busy or who's using it. And it brings me actually to a story. I get a lot of marketing emails. Some of them are brilliant. Most of them not. I had one the other day that said, hello, insert name here. So they've obviously used a template and forgot to insert my name there. But I find it fascinating that 80 to 90% of these emails as of 2 weeks ago, the 1st of April, started landing up in my junk folder, which is something that everyone should be concerned about. Why? Because we're spending money on marketing. We're spending money on driving operational efficiencies within a business. And there's a fundamental issue that we need to talk about so that we can get a quick turnaround to value on those funds that are being spent. Without going too much into the technicality of things, there's a couple of issues that surround this that, I've got friends that work in marketing and they ask me a question, well, Steve, why should we care? It is fundamentally an IT problem. It is a security problem. It's not really a marketing problem. So I asked the question back to them is, how important is it for delivery when you're sending marketing emails or any email for that matter? And they're like, no, it's exceptionally important. And then I pose another question. How sure are you that those emails are landing up in the right locations? And they start frowning and they're going, well, because the technology is telling us that it is and it's designed that way. Okay, fair. And how sure are you that the people are actually receiving an email from you or your marketing team or anyone in the company that's legitimate? How do you have visibility and how do you make sure that that is in fact true? Now they start questioning themselves and they start panicking a bit because now if they're not using the marketing budget or any budget efficiently, then everyone knows the budget gets cut. And that's a problem with email, as I mentioned before. It was never designed with the intention of being safe and secure and reliable in mind. Over the years, we've tried to utilize different technologies to help us better that or improve that. But there still exists a flaw. And the challenge is that most businesses focus on their immediate environment. They don't realize that they have the ability to effect positive change external to their environment, which is quite interesting. So we're just going to talk about email impersonation and the effect that it has on many parts of the business. Marketing is a big part of the business. It's interesting when we have conversations with businesses around email impersonation, you always get delegated or relegated to the person you sound like. So we always get stuck with IT managers or chief technical officers or security officers and so on and the likes of that. And when we present pricing, usually to larger organizations, it's sometimes, or most of the cases, they're always telling us it's too expensive, but we help them understand that there's many parts of the business from which we can get, the budget from. And we help them understand that it impacts all sorts of business, all sorts of parts of the business relatively well. And I wanted to use this as an example. This is not a real impersonation email for obvious reasons, because it's so easy to make them and so easy to do them, as I'm sure you've done or checked with the QR code, which I'll explain in more detail. But really what the point is of this is to show you that they don't have to have any malicious links in them. They don't have to have nasty attachments in them. It just could be fake information. Now, you've got customers that are strategic customers that you've partnered with over many years. You generate business for them, they generate business for you. And it's really much what Ralph said in the beginning. It's an abuse of a trusted relationship. And almost to the point where you're feeling a little bit vulnerable and a little bit violated, especially if people that you know and have known for a while are receiving emails that look like they've come from you. They trust you, so they click on an attachment that's got nothing malicious inside it other than a changed banking detail. Right? Now they're paying invoices into a fraudulent account. Similarly, the world of email at the moment, especially with the latest announcement from Google and Yahoo, basically saying that we are going to clamp down on this because we need businesses to prove that they own the domains from which they're sending email to prevent this very problem. But it creates a backlog and it creates another issue, because now there's this idea of mistrust, or distrust rather. So in sending legitimate emails, as much as they are legitimate, the receivers cannot actually verify if it's coming from a safe or legitimate source or not. So the default is put it in a junk folder or actually reject it. So this is very important, not just from a security perspective, but it's actually business critical that this gets done and done correctly. So let's have a look at this, right? So if you haven't, get your phone out. If you've got a latest smartphone, you should just be able to scan it with your camera. It is going to ask you for your personal email address and your work email address for the intents and purposes of sending an email from yourself to yourself, right? This is done in a controlled environment. It's not anything malicious or untoward, but I just need to put that disclaimer out there. Once you click on that, it's going to pop you up, or should pop up, with this impersonation demonstration. I'm happy to do a live demonstration of this at a later stage if need be. But yeah, just accept, send, and we make sure that no personal information is recorded or anything like that. This is just to show you that this is possible, and if this is happening on a small scale in this control environment, imagine what's happening on a 3 billion email scale per day or per week that Ralph mentioned before. I mean, this is what these guys do. They do it for a living. They do it to topple up businesses. They do it to steal money. They do it to steal information. And it leaves us, the people that are the victims, trying to pick up the pieces with our partners and with our customers that are now shouting at us. What you will get if you do a domain analysis, now remember, a domain is the identity of the business from which you're sending email. It's very important to understand that there is always a starting point, and whatever the potential score is as a starting point, it's important to understand that you've already taken the first step, is understanding where your business is at with regards to this particular security and particular operational efficiency. Now, don't be alarmed, don't be panicked. That's why we have Ralph here as well, who has very, very kindly offered to assist you guys with anything regarding this domain protection and email efficiency. And it's our job and our attention to, if you're so inclined, to improve this domain safety score. And essentially, no one wants to be a 0 out of 5. Everyone wants to be a 5 out of 5, but no one really knows how to get there. So that's where we come in. That's where we're here to assist and help you improve that score. And from any portion of the business, from finance to operations or anything like that, any analysis that we do doesn't cost you anything. So we're happy to do that with you and give you an initial report on that. So let's address something that's really important with regards to any email. Majority of folk that we talk to, they open up Outlook or open up their mail app. they click new email, right? Put in all the details, the to address, effectively a title or a subject, the content of the mail either being just wording or documents or links and such, and they hit send. There's a lot of things that happen on the back end, a lot of points of failure, if you will, especially more so once the email has actually left the business environment. So it's important, again, not from just a security perspective, but from understanding how this works to better improve the way that you're sending and using this tool that is email. So we're just going to go through how an impersonation happens and how, how this impacts a business, because there are quite a few damages that as a result of this can happen. But email delivery is, and should be, very straightforward. You've got the sender in the middle and the receiver on the other side of the world, whoever needs to receive it. And that can be customers, suppliers, employees. It could be anyone that you talk to, really. And it should be as straightforward as just sending an email, right? That's generally the case. But now what happens is we've got software as a service companies like Yahoo, Google, Microsoft, certain other companies like that, that are designed to make email better, to make it safer, to make it more efficient, right? And in fact, we need these services. I'm sure you have all subscribed to some of these services that send email on your behalf. Here's the trick. When you subscribe to these services, it's not actually Rolf at Cubit Technology sending Stephen at Sandmark an email. It just looks like it's him, but it's coming from his infrastructure. So these are the infrastructures that are actually sending the email. Okay. Now, this is pretty much straightforward. You click an email, create an email, gets sent to these infrastructures, and they send it on to the receiver. And then when they receive back, it works the opposite way, which is true. What's happening at the moment is everyone is being treated as, yes, these are legitimate emails, which has caused a problem because now we don't know if it's a fake marketing campaign that's come from a legitimate company, or if it's a real marketing campaign that's come from a legitimate company, or worst case scenario, a fake marketing campaign coming from a fake company. We need to put systems in place, and that's where your security teams and your security contingents get involved. But more so, it's beneficial for anyone trying to drive efficiencies with regards to email in the business to understand this. So what's happened over the last couple of months is we've had an idea of around emails starting to fail, starting to get put into junk folders and spam folders. And we need to understand why that is, because if we are spending money on email, if we are spending money on marketing, if we are looking to reduce costs within a business and get better return on investment for our services, we need to understand what's going on. There's such a thing as called shadow marketing or shadow IT, whereby the security contingents of the business and the marketing teams don't usually see eye to eye with certain things because both of them have got a way of doing things. With regards to this is where security and this is where more so efficiencies come into play. So before the emails actually get to their destination, we do a couple of cool things to make sure that we can prove that it's coming from you guys, from your businesses, and that it hasn't been tampered with, before it gets to the end. Imagine you're running a campaign where there's prizes involved, or you want to get news out to a large consortium of customers or suppliers, and you send out an email campaign using various systems. Imagine that email campaign then gets intercepted on purpose with malicious information that gets addressed or added into that email. You as the sender don't actually understand what's going on. You don't get notified. There's no blockages or protocols for that to notify you. And I, as your trusted client, to get this email, and I'm very excited to have won a prize or very excited to be joining an event where there's a possibility of earning from a pool of prizes, or to find out that it was fake. I've provided my information, and now I've got cyber criminals running all over my private life. The challenge is the only person that I can blame is you, the sender. And as of late, there's been quite a few stories in South Africa and the UK, all over the world, where victims, being me, have full right and responsibility to hold you as the domain owner and the sender liable. So that's why this is supremely important. I can give you an example of what happened in South Africa last year. A huge law firm was settling a case with one of their clients where she had won a house in a settlement of divorce, and she needed to pay over legal fees to the tune of 5 million rand. Divide that in half, take away 0, that's roughly what the pound equivalent would be. And she ended up receiving an email because it was sent from an authorized or legitimate sender. She received it and she paid the invoice that was attached. Long story short, somewhere along this line, an impersonator or a criminal intercepted that email, changed banking details, and she was none the wiser. The sender didn't get a notification. He's on a beach somewhere enjoying his money that he's now stolen, and the sender and the recipient are now fighting it out in a court case in court. She eventually ended up winning to the tune of 4 times that initial amount. And that law firm still does not have the proper security in place, which is quite ironic, seeing as how Senmark was the organization that initially approached them to talk about that. But let's talk about something that's also happening. The world of email is evolving, as I mentioned. It was never designed with security and efficiencies in mind. So 2 of the biggest email sending behemoths out there in the world, being Yahoo and Google, have basically stipulated that if you as an email sender that has a registered domain are sending email to any of their platforms, which is, roughly 1/3 or 2/3 of the world, and you can't prove that you own that domain, your mail is going to end up in a junk folder or a spam folder, or actually not successfully delivered at all. Now, that's not meant to scare you. That's meant to wake you up, perk your interests, and go, this maybe not be just a security thing anymore. This may also be an operations perspective. It also might be a function of finance. If you can't send emails, you can't send invoices. If you can't send emails, you can't send marketing collateral to specific clients or providers. You can't fulfill on marketing briefs that you've been asked to fulfill on. Slowly but surely, other big email sending platforms are going to start jumping on this as well, because when one does something, the likelihood is the rest will follow suit. So because these guys are going to stop sending or preventing to send emails to receivers, they've asked you to do one simple thing. And it's not about security. It's simply proving identity. Are you who you say you are? Are you from the organization that you say you represent? This has gone live as of the 1st of April. I've got a friend that started her own business about 2 months ago. It's a 2-person business. And as of the 1st of April, she saw a reduction in successfully sent emails by about 90%. And a lot of her clients had phoned her and said, we're not receiving any of the emails. It's because of the changes that these 2 powerhouses have made. And they've basically gently coerced everybody in the world that either sends or receives email from these 2 giants. Please do this. We need you to do it because we need you to prove who you are. What it will do is you'll see improvements on successful email sending by up to 18% in the initial week, and further improvements on email successful delivery in the future. That being said, there are some technical pieces behind this. Without getting too much into the weeds, it is a trio or a 3 musketeer approach here that will allow us to successfully mitigate this, and it does a few things. By focusing on this, and this is something you as organization owners and organization influencers have, is to talk to your business partners about making sure you've done everything you can to prevent email from landing up in the wrong place, or to prevent impersonation from happening. These 3 aspects over here will get done by Rolf and the team. Very easy to do, very complex to do, but once you understand it, it becomes very easy to do. And that's why we've got trusted partnerships with our trusted advisors over there. This is where Senmark comes in. We haven't designed a specific solution to stop fill a gap over here from a market perspective. What we have done is we've taken a global security standard that is DMARC, which has always been synonymous with security, but I would argue with rate of global adoption in the millions of domains per month, we don't want to get left behind, and we don't want to be seen to the rest of the world as a poor email sender. This is where we come in and we actually facilitate this portion over here so that when you are sending emails, these systems can validate and the receiver can validate that it's come from a legitimate source and that it hasn't been impacted or tampered with. Failing to do this, and again, this is not the Peter Pambulance over here scaring you guys into forcing you to doing something. It's us humbly sharing some information that we feel will improve what it is that you're doing on a day-to-day with email, and that we can prove will improve operational efficiencies with regards to email. Failing to do this, I'm not going to read what's on the screen, but these are the couple of the damages that are synonymous with impersonated emails. Emails that get sent to the wrong place or get sent to the wrong person with corrupted information. One of the biggest issues that a lot of my marketing customers talk to me about, and I've got one that specializes in email marketing, they've got 3,500 customers that they do their specific mail marketing with their software. They phoned me, I think it was the end of December, just before Christmas, citing this Google and Yahoo announcement, and they were terrified that of nothing else other than poor email delivery, because one of their promises to their clients is we will improve your email delivery. So we ran a massive campaign for them, and out of 3,500 customers, we saw that only 2% of them were compliant in this global security standard. And now we're rolling out a huge campaign to get the other 98% compliant with an affordable rate. Very quickly, the difference between the two. Most businesses, much like yourselves, are probably focused on protecting your own house, protecting your employees, protecting yourselves. That's the attacker's initial interest, is to get to you. We then forget that we've got people outside that trust us, outside this environment that trust us. What I'm not saying is you need to replace what you've already done. What I am saying is you need to add to what you've already done. So if we can complete this circle over here to make sure that the attacker has no interest in you whatsoever and moves on to the next person or the next business that isn't such in a way inclined, or doesn't understand this information or hasn't been exposed to this information. And this is where we come in. We do a couple of important things in the back end. We don't need a lot of resources from internal businesses. And it's important for all of us to do this because we need to continue building this trusted network that we use email for. We don't want to degrade that. We don't want to break it down. And we don't want to put anyone at risk for being taken to court over naivety, I would say. I need to touch on the solution very, very quickly, and then we'll start to wrap things up with a quick summary. DMARC is around. It has been around for the better part of the last 10 years. Why is it now becoming important? Because as I would say, it's a defense arms race, really. As the cyber criminals get better using technology against us, the security providers out there get better at stopping that from happening. So they're always one step ahead of us. We're always trying to beat them in this game that we play. The cyber criminals realized that DMARC was a gap that they could exploit, or a lack of DMARC is a gap that they could exploit. So to solve this problem that we've just unpacked for you over the last 10 minutes, these big powerhouses globally got together with the smartest minds that they could afford and offer, and they built this global security standard for email that is called DMARC. It uses some other underlying technologies, but all you need to know from today is if you don't have a DMARC record, let's give you one. Once we've given you a DMARC record, Ralph and the team will help you understand the process to making it work for you rather than trying to figure it out. It's going to solve impersonation problems for you. And you might say, well, we haven't had an impersonation. That's correct. You might not have. But your many customers and suppliers out there that talk to you on a daily basis may have got a legitimate quote unquote email from you. They may be interacting with the cyber criminal as we speak, and they don't know, and neither do you. So we need to identify that and solve that. by fixing impersonation and interception, which, by the way, if it successfully happens, tells the big email people out there, the big email companies, that your email is not to be trusted. So if you are having these issues, likelihood is that you have a degradation in email delivery, which hurts everyone in the business, because why are we wasting resources on something that's not being successfully delivered? By fixing a few security flaws, we actually improve email delivery, and it gives you, as the individuals that utilize this as a tool to generate revenue for the business, visibility and control. Excuse me. It makes sure that you have the ability to see that your mails are successfully being delivered without being tampered with, without false information, and pretty much in accordance with governmental laws and different components from gov.uk, as well as NIST framework, which is a security framework. It gives you points in a positive direction when it comes to audits at the end of the year. So, quick recap here. Email is used as a fundamental tool. There's big businesses out there, Google, Yahoo, basically saying that we need to be able to prove, as a matter of security and urgency, that you are the owner of that domain and the owner of that email. How do we do that? We do that by using DMARC and leveraging off of security, or rather operational efficiency insights from organizations like Cubit Technology. They will come in, they'll make sure that they start this process with you. It does not interrupt email. It is not an additional processor of email, so you're not going to have email delays. And they take you through the process of monitoring right through to the strictest setting of this, whereby without a doubt, any recipient that receives an email from you can prove that that mail has come from your authorized business email addresses, etc. Let's have a look at some of the regulators, institutions, providers. They're driving DMARC adoption. They're driving DMARC awareness. The British government, GDPR organizations, etc. This is something that's going to become mandatory at some point. Right now, it's not enforced, but like I say to all my clients, it will give you an advantage, it will give you an edge, and it will remove any potential headache with regards to a question of, is this a legitimate email or not? If you need more information around these certain standards, these certain providers that are driving DMARC compliance, please reach out to the guys at Cubit Technology. We'd be happy to assist with that. And essentially, that is a high-level overview of impersonation and how it impacts a business. And I'll take any questions now if we have it.
Thank you, Stephen. That was brilliant. And Ralph as well. I was wondering, do we have any timeline as to when we think it might become sort of legislation?
So it's an interesting one with legislation, right? They can't just all of a sudden tomorrow go, tough luck if you don't have it, sorry. They can do that if they've led up to this point, which is what they have been doing. The various regulatory bodies have been doing it for a long time. Much like GDPR as well. It was talked about, and then all of a sudden it started to become implemented. And I think that's what Yahoo and Google are doing quite rightly and actually quite nicely. Is I think the first announcement came out December last year, and they basically just said very nicely, we're doing this, we're clamping down on email security, we're clamping down on email delivery to try and quiet the noise, firstly, because there's a lot of noise out there. And these are our rough timelines. And I've had a few phone calls over the last 2 weeks saying, A, we should have listened to you. B, is it still as cheap as you mentioned it was before? And C, can we get started yesterday? And the answer is, you should have listened to us before, but we're not going to say I told you so. We do partner with incredible companies like Ralph and the Cubit team to make sure that this is understood fully from all aspects of the business. And we do it in a way that doesn't compromise business values. It doesn't compromise business operations, and it doesn't force businesses to go, well, I'm between a rock and a hard place, so I guess you guys can charge me whatever you want. What I would focus on, though, is the global adoption rates with regards to DMARC. From December last year, I think it was the 18th to the 7th of January, there were a couple of million businesses globally that had published a DMARC record. That had tripled in less than a month because of this, this announcement. Now, a disclaimer would be, you can do DMARC yourself. I would highly advise you don't, because I've seen many businesses try it and break some really important infrastructure, important mail that they've got going on there.
Thank you, Stephen.
Yes, the only other comment I was going to briefly make is to explain that we, before we take on a new customer, an agency, we would do a full security audit. And we're looking to generate a brief security audit that we could do on behalf of any Alliance member. We're, as I say, we're still generating that, but within hopefully a few weeks, we should have some more details about that, and that'll be a feature that any Alliance member can take from us, and then at least they'll have a benchmark where they are, so they can assess their situation in respect of DMARC and email, or other aspects, like just a general security audit, so they can see how they are compared with other agencies. But yeah, okay. Sorry, Terry, over to you.
No, just saying. Has anyone got any other questions at all, or any experiences that they'd like to share with everyone else? Been spoofed before?
I can tell you the largest spoof I've ever witnessed was an aviation company I think they're based in Germany, but they manufactured engineering parts for Airbus and all the Boeing and all of these guys. And the CEO and co-founder was on holiday. I think this happened in 2015 or 2013. But he was on holiday and he came back to his office being locked, a whole bunch of armed forces outside of his building, and a very, very upset, recently fired board of directors, and he had no idea why. What had happened was, while he was away, he apparently sent an email to his finance team, who was also fired, for a transaction of 49.5 million euros. You know, small money, you know, nothing really big. And it looked legitimate. It was exactly how he spoke to them. He used their nicknames. He was quirky in the mail like he usually was. And essentially what had happened, someone was watching mails back and forth. And this is how scary it is. When you guys are all sending emails to each other, you don't know who's looking in. They're waiting for the opportune moment to go, I like that. I'm going to take that, change what I need to and get paid. So Terry owes me money, but Steve doesn't get paid. The bad guy does. So these guys sent an email and the finance team released authorization for the payment of 49.5 million euros. Their stock price and the share price fell almost 30 points that afternoon. The entire board of directors was fired, and he was escorted from the building, not knowing what had gone on. And that's, I mean, those are big organizations. And one of the things that we need to keep in mind is that we may not be a big organization. You know, if you're a 5, 10, 15, 30 person business, doesn't matter. These guys don't care. They will take everything and anything from you because they can. So let's make it that much more difficult for them. Just by publishing a DMARC record, which you can do, and we can do that today, it allows the public-facing people to see that you're doing this. So why would a criminal try to work or try to steal from you, even if they still can? They would rather target somebody else that doesn't even have a DMARC record in place. So take that as what you will. The average cost of an impersonation as of last month was about $19,500, which is about 17 or 16,000 pounds. And that's not even just in the transaction, that's in the damages, the aftermath that comes after the fact. So yeah, hopefully that was valuable. Hopefully that was useful, and hopefully I didn't scare you too much. If you would like a one-on-one session to deep dive into an impersonation, a live demonstration, chat to Rolf, chat to Terry, let's see if we can set something up, and yeah, we can go from there.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Stephen and Rolf. I suppose we'll leave it there for today, but yeah, it's sobering, isn't it? At the end of the day. But when we started our conversations a couple of weeks to get this webinar on, because I thought it was such an important topic for our agencies, that I've already started setting up. I've put it in our DMARC, and I think my score is now 4 out of 5. There's one more thing to do, something like that. But I'll be speaking to yourselves, Ralph and Stephen, to make sure that we can get that 5 out of 5 score, because for our organization, you know, email's key to speak to our members, make sure that it's not getting spoofed.
It's a really important reputational aspect, isn't it? I know, speaking to PR agencies, we've got 20 of our clients are PR agencies, and they send out huge volumes of email, and if that email doesn't get through, or that they might be sort of blacklisted, then it's a disaster for them. You know, a marketing agency that can't use email to market is very, very bad for their reputation. And actually, talking about branding, there's one more aspect of on top of DMARC, which is BIMI, where you'll be able to have your company brand shown on the email header. So that's for another session. But yeah, it's a key thing. And please come back to us via the Alliance if you'd like to have a one-to-one on this.
Yeah, and we'll have the slides that we can share, obviously, and we've recorded the session. So if there's anyone wants to share this around your agency, you think someone else should be viewing it, yeah, you'll get all those links after this. All right, lovely. Thank you so much, everyone. We've given you 13 minutes back. How kind are we? Thanks very much.
Thanks
All the
everyone.
best,
everybody.
Bye-bye.
All the best. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.